All right, so you wanted to really dig deep into Surah Ash-Shu'ara.
Yeah, one of those Meccan sodas packed with wisdom, from a really intense
A
time.
lot going on, yeah.
Yeah.
So what should we be looking for in these 227 verses? What are the big takeaways for us?
I think the core message that really comes through is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, and how crucial it is to hold on to that guidance.
Right. And this surah uses some pretty powerful stories to drive that point home, right?
It does. It takes us back to the prophets and how people responded to them. It's actually pretty relevant to what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was going through at the time, too.
Oh, really? So this was kind of a source of strength for him.
Definitely. And a very clear warning for anyone who rejected his message.
So there's this theme of accepting or rejecting the truth running through it all.
Exactly. And that struggle between truth and falsehood, haq and batil, it's like a universal principle.
Not just a religious thing.
Not at all. You see it everywhere. In politics, business, society, art, even the way we express ourselves can lean towards truth or falsehood.
And the surah emphasizes that truth ultimately wins out.
Without a doubt. And to illustrate this, it tells the stories of 7 prophets.
7. That's a lot.
It is. You have Moses, Abraham, Noah, Salih, Lot, and Shuaib. And what's really fascinating is the pattern of rejection they each faced.
Like history repeating itself.
Precisely. And that's not by accident. It highlights the consistent nature of divine guidance and, sadly, the tendency for some people to resist it.
So what happened to the communities that rejected these prophets?
Well, the surah doesn't shy away from detailing the consequences for those who turned away from the truth. It's a stark reminder of divine justice.
Makes you think about choices, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the surah also emphasizes certain attributes of Allah, right?
Yes. You see Allah's might al-Aziz and his mercy al-Rahim highlighted throughout.
Balance of power and compassion.
Absolutely. It shows that even in his dealings with those who reject him, there's still an element of mercy.
And then there's the signs mentioned. What exactly are those?
Those are the ayat evidence pointing towards the truth. They're found in nature, historical events, and even within the Quran itself.
Kind of like clues urging us to reflect and connect the dots.
Exactly. The surah also addresses those who doubted the Quran's authenticity.
I remember reading about that. Some people claimed it was poetry or magic, right?
That's right. But the surah firmly declares that the Quran is of divine origin, revealed in clear Arabic by Angel Gabriel to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
No room for doubt there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that those early verses offered comfort to the prophet, peace be upon him. How so?
They reassured him that his role was to convey the message, and that ultimately guidance comes from Allah.
A reminder that he wasn't alone in this.
Exactly. And the reference to signs in nature right at the start served as a powerful reminder of Allah's power and control.
Okay, let's look at some of the specific stories, starting with Moses and Pharaoh. What stands out for you there?
I think it's the power of unwavering faith even against seemingly insurmountable odds. Moses facing down a superpower like Pharaoh. That's a huge lesson for us.
Especially when we feel like we're up against impossible challenges.
Exactly. What are the pharaohs we're facing in our own lives? Maybe it's a bad habit, a difficult situation, whatever it is. This story reminds us that even when things seem hopeless, Allah can bring about victory.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
And what about Abraham? What are the key takeaways from his story?
For me, it's his complete rejection of idols, which could represent anything we elevate above the truth today, like materialism or societal pressures.
Right. Anything that takes the place of Allah in our hearts.
Exactly. And his intellectual conviction in his belief is also striking.
That deep understanding of why he believed what he believed.
Yeah, and his prayer in verses 83 to 89 is particularly powerful. He asks Allah for a sound heart.
Which is something we should all strive for.
Absolutely. It's about having a heart that's free from doubt, hypocrisy, and corruption.
A heart that's truly connected to Allah.
Yes. And then you have Noah's story, which is about persistence and the certainty of Allah's judgment.
He preached for centuries despite facing constant rejection.
And never wavered in his belief. It teaches us that even when things seem bleak, we should never lose hope in Allah's promise.
Then there's Hud and the people of Ad. What's their story about?
They were a powerful and wealthy people who became arrogant and materialistic. Their downfall serves as a warning against the dangers of those two things.
It's easy to get caught up in worldly pursuits, isn't it?
It is, and their story reminds us that ultimate success lies in pleasing Allah, not accumulating wealth or status.
And what about Saul and the she-camel? What happened there?
So Allah sent them a she-camel as a clear sign, but they defied him and killed it. This highlights the importance of respecting divine signs and the severe consequences of choosing defiance.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions have consequences.
Definitely. And then you have Lot and his people who are engaged in deeply immoral behavior.
A difficult story, but an important one.
Absolutely. The Surah strongly condemns their actions and calls us to stand against evil no matter how widespread it may be.
And to clarify, the specific sin addressed here is homosexuality.
Yes. And finally, you have Shuaib and the people of Aika. Their story emphasizes honesty and fairness in business dealings.
A message that's still relevant today.
Without a doubt, it warns against corruption, deceit, and cheating in any form.
So how does the Surah conclude?
Well, it reaffirms the truth of the Quran and warns against shirk, associating partners with Allah.
A reminder that Tawheed is at the heart of everything.
Exactly. It also instructs us to warn our close family about the consequences of disbelief and emphasizes kindness and compassion towards fellow believers.
And how do the Hadith, the Prophet's sayings and actions, shed light on these teachings?
The Hadith reinforce and expand upon what's mentioned in the Surah. For example, there's a narration where the Prophet, peace be upon him, warns his own family after this verse was revealed.
Showing how seriously he took this instruction.
Definitely. There are also narrations encouraging us to recite Surah Ash-Shu'ara for protection and healing, and some that clarify specific verses like those about devils and lying poets.
So a lot of guidance to be found there.
Absolutely. And what do scholars have to say about the recurring themes in this surah?
That's an interesting question.
They consistently highlight the battle between truth and falsehood, the role of prophets, the consequences of rejection, and the balance of Allah's mercy and might.
It's amazing how these themes resonate throughout the Quran.
It is. And scholar Maududi specifically pointed out the consistent patterns in how disbelievers behave throughout history.
Like their arguments and tactics are always the same.
Exactly. And it's important to clarify that the surah's critique of poets isn't a universal condemnation. It's specifically targeting those who misuse their talents to spread falsehood and division.
Right. So it's about the intention behind our words and actions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so big picture. What are the key lessons we can take away from Surah Ash-Shu'ara?
What can we apply to our lives today?
For me, it's about remaining steadfast in the face of challenges, trusting in Allah's plan no matter what, upholding Tawheed in all aspects of our lives, striving for ethical conduct and social justice, reflecting on the signs around us, recognizing our accountability, and working towards inner purity, that sound heart that Prophet Abraham prayed for.
Powerful stuff. And it sounds like Surah Ash-Shu'ara really provides a framework for navigating the ups and downs of life.
Absolutely. It's a timeless guide for anyone seeking spiritual growth and wisdom.
So here's a question for our listeners. How does this battle between truth and falsehood play out in your own life? What are the challenges you're facing? And what steps can you take inspired by the steadfastness of these prophets to stand firmly on the side of truth? Take some time to reflect on these questions and maybe even read the surah again with these insights in mind.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
All right, until next time.